Welcome to the Pondcast, the destination for insightful discussions and interviews on the appreciation, conservation, and husbandry of reptiles, with a focus on turtles and tortoises. Now, let's join our team of turtle nerds.
Pondcast episode 71. We are here. We're so excited. First, I feel like we need to start with a little bit of housekeeping, because if you're a fan of the podcast, you're probably looking and saying, who are all these people? So even though you saw them in the lead-in, Chris and Kevin are not here with us today. They're both indisposed, but yours truly, of course, is here. Being the Pondcast Iron Man that I am, I feel like Cal Ripken Jr. here. Haven't missed a Pondcast yet. Helping me with hosting duties today is my lovely blushing bride, Shannon.
You have to call me that.
Say hello, Shannon. My better half, my much better half. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. Welcome. Excited to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a lead-in, we just want to say we thought this was a cool opportunity. So Shannon and I have been working on a new podcast, right? Tell them what it's called. Tell them.
Turtly Devoted.
Turtly Devoted. That touches on the ridiculousness of a life dedicated to a certain weird thing. I think of like the old Marriage Ref episodes where like the guy is obsessed with raising large pumpkins, but he pronounced them pumpkins. Remember that episode?
Remember.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so good. I'll never forget it. So just, having a ridiculous thing that you're obsessed with, and then the loved one who has to put up with it. But you're a biology major. It's not that big of a stretch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I guess. We could talk about that.
She's very talkative. That's why.
I was going to say, I thought it'd be funny to tie in that my initial major at URI was fashion merchandising.
Right.
I did a degree in biology, yes.
You've come a long way from there now, being married to a turtle nerd and mother of two, macaroni and cheese and chicken nuggets. It's, the whole thing.
Organic.
It's a whole life.
Organic.
Only the best.
Yeah.
Nothing but the best. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what's going on here. So we're really excited, Shannon and I, to be together on a podcast. She's been on as a guest before. It's been a while, but we're here, and be sure to check out our podcast, Turtly Devoted, if you have a chance. We're really proud of it and excited about it. So please do. And our guest, so the other reason why Shannon is here is our guest, Dr. Dave Hudson. We're really excited to have you with us.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, welcome. This is really cool, and there's a connection here. There's more connection and reason why Shannon would be here. Shannon set this up today, and you know what, Shannon? Why don't you tell everyone why and how Dr. Hudson is our guest?
So one of our local aquariums, Maritime Aquarium, I was following it on Instagram, and I happened to see this picture of a person on a boat that I was like, I think I know that person. And it was Dr. Hudson. And so I couldn't think of like a non-weird way of contacting him, because it had been a long time. So I thought it'd be weird to like contact
years.
Yeah. Like I thought it'd be weird to like ask my friends to set it up, and then like what if they drop the ball? So I just left him like a super lengthy, awkward voicemail at work, like a normal person. Just saying, I don't know if you know me, but I know you, and do you want to be on this podcast? So here we are.
That's like the worst reach out to ever have, is like from a lady from college who's like, I don't know if you remember me, but like, oh my God, I have a kid in Tallahassee right now that I don't know about. No?
It's not even the weirdest voicemail I've had.
That you got
since
that day?
Since I've been at the aquarium, I've had a few really interesting conversations with some really interesting people.
We'll get into those
about
later.
kids in Tallahassee or
no,
other?
Nothing of that kind.
Okay, good.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So is that it?
Yeah, and then we just spoke and we were able to get it set up. And my biggest concern was he was going to get on here and like look at me and be like, I have no idea who this person is. But luckily he's either lying or he does actually remember me from college. So
We had like a 40-minute conversation too.
yeah, that's true.
That's true. We FaceTime last week. Not really.
No.
Not really. So, Dr. Hudson, I'm going to call you Dave from now on. Does that sound okay?
Fine.
Okay, Dave's fine. You heard it here. I struggle with that a little bit. I want to call everyone who's a doctor, Dr. Hudson or Dr. So-and-so. I struggle with this a little bit in my profession, working in the veterinary field. I just want to call everyone Dr. something, and usually I frustrate people who I know pretty well. But it just, I don't know. You earned it, right?
I earned it, but I've had more casual conversations up north than I have. I worked in Georgia for a while as a professor, and everybody, even within the department, was doctor this, doctor that, and it was kind of a strange experience. So the different regions of the country do it differently. I'm fluent in Spanish, so they actually have like a verb to say, is it okay if we just go first names? So they actually have this like whole concept because it's a really formal language, and so it's kind of an interesting thing. Like, let's just like cut the small talk and go straight to being friends, so it's easy.
That's cool. But then I would ignore it. That's just my style.
That's cool.
Like, okay, Dr. Dave, I'm sorry. I'll call you Dr. Dave. Is that okay?
That's fine. It's fine. Whatever you're comfortable with.
I'm making it awkward already. I apologize.
It's okay.
So we're excited. We are animal nerds here on the podcast, and we have a following, a very sizable following. Not really, but we love our following, and they're animal nerds as well, and they enjoy talking and learning from animal nerds who geek out even more than they do and at levels that they can't comprehend. So, and we're a part of that too. So we're excited to talk to you about what you geek out about. Mm-hmm. I know that you're a crustacean man. I think that's really cool. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of fell into that. I grew up in Michigan, like about a block and a half from Lake Michigan. So I really got into this from like the diving side of things, kind of the, your typical, like, I want to be a marine biologist because I love sharks and all this other stuff. And I got to URI 1,000 miles away and really still wanted to work with sharks, and the department head recruited me into his lab, but he worked on lobsters. And I worked in his lab for 4 years, and really just like went like deep into that, and it was a great system to work with. And I really kind of thinking back to why I got into this, I actually had some influences on invasive species, because growing up we had zebra mussels, we had all these invasive species that were problems in the Great Lakes, and I ended up working on invasive crustaceans, which turned into eventually my PhD project. So I just kept following it, and my friends know that I've caught a lot of flack over the years for working with crabs, but they've brought me all over the world, and it got me a Fulbright, and it's been a really interesting system to work with. Great to answer some like big climate change questions, and it's stuff you can't do in some of the larger animals. So it's really been like a really kind of wild ride down that river. So it's worked out.
I think that's so cool and so interesting. Like, we talk all the time about like the sexy species, the megafauna, the stuff that brings people in, and that's like an important gateway drug for somebody who's getting into it. But then as you learn more, you realize all this other stuff and opportunity that's there and things that haven't been studied yet, and that starts to become the thing that really excites you, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So that shift happened when you were at URI?
And yeah, sophomore year of college. So I went to Spain to study Spanish to get my minor, and like that first summer, and then went right into the lab that next fall, and it was like not like I didn't even look back. And I goaded a lot of friends over the years to help me with it. Diving in the middle of winter when classes are canceled, we're out there anyway. um, we have a mutual friend, Shannon, who helped me to literally count and measure so I could end up going to like a party junior year. Brian Frost actually helped me like go and measure crabs so I could like get it done so I can go out on a Saturday night. Because it all falls to like the undergrad like workaholics that end up like that's like what research is built on. So yeah.
You're muted. You're muted. I can hear you.
I said, how big is the marine biology program at URI?
I think it generally starts at about 120 per class, and then you graduate about 2025. So there's a mass attrition out. But I think a lot of that's who finds that they like policy more, or they're really more into fisheries, or they're more into other areas in biology. And I think that's part of it. Like everybody kind of gets into marine biology because they think they're going to go swim with dolphins, and some do. But it's kind of funny. I kind of worked back to working with sharks because we actually have acoustic receivers in the water right now that I'm supposed to dive on Friday that will be tracking sand tiger sharks next year. So it's weird that it like crabs kind of came back to working with sharks, but hey. It's a roundabout way of getting to it.
That's really cool.
Can you tell me more like what your role is at the aquarium?
Yeah, so I was brought on about 4 years ago to direct the research and conservation program. Aquariums have this real, as you guys know, because you've both been there, a really wide collection of animals that are generally pretty local. We're focused on Long Island Sound, so we have a lot of the local animals, but it's not always like you're going to see a hake in like just out in the Sound. If you're fishing, you might catch one, but we end up having a bunch of these animals, and we can study them in that environment and learn more about individual species that we wouldn't have that information otherwise. And so I was brought in to kind of look at what role the aquarium could take in research and in conservation in the immediate vicinity, and how we could better connect to some of the regional efforts that are going on with our local species, with species in need, some that are state listed, regionally listed, nationally listed, and internationally listed. So I've really had a great time working through that and being able to better connect our staff to that effort, connect people to our citizen science efforts, and it's a department of one right now, but we're hoping that it gets back to growth shortly.
How has the aquarium done? I mean, I know because I said like my daughters have been using the virtual programs that you guys are offering, but and I know you're open now, but like how are they doing given the circumstances of COVID and everything?
Well, we get to how things are going throughout the talk about the Safe Sea Turtle program. I've certainly got a sense for what other aquariums are going through. We're lucky because Connecticut really took it seriously early on, and we were able to open our doors in June, even though it was a depressed percentage that we were able to take. Our big months are the summer months, so June, July, August are like the meat of our season. So we were able to be open, if not for full capacity, we were able to generate some funds during that time to kind of keep things going. We've been kind of budgeted at like kind of a percentage of like our 4-year running average, which has helped us to just kind of have a good beat on things. Thank you to everyone who's come to see us, and thank you for those who have gotten members and have donated. It's really helped us get going. Others using aquariums need people's help. Those donations go right to the husbandry department and right to keeping those operations going. Like you mentioned the programs. Those programs have to date reached almost all 50 states and 6 countries around the world. So it's been it's being used by people beyond our region, and it's free. There's like a suggested donation at the end of that. That's directly supporting the educators that are putting it together. So we're trying to make sure that the services we're providing, because we're a service organization. We got into this because we enjoy certainly servicing the animals and the conservation of those animals, and we're passionate about the people and trying to connect people to the environment and what are the little things that they can do to make the environment better. So we're really happy that we are certainly reaching a number of folks who are finding value in that. So we're in pretty good shape right now, but we're really hoping that we continue to be able to stay open and keep revenue flowing in. We're almost 100% foot traffic, so it's something that we're really hoping to continue to keep.
Yeah. We had we've been like pretty much housebound since March, and I've been telling my daughters everything's closed. And the first maritime aquarium one we did, right at the end, the lady's like, "And we're open." And my daughter is like screaming from the other room. She's like, "They're open, we can go." And I'm like, we'll talk about that later. We'll just keep doing our virtual classes for now. But it's exciting to hear that we had started and you guys weren't open. So it's nice to see that now everything's kind of back to normal for you guys.
Yeah, well, we're as normal as we can be. The animal husbandry department didn't skip a beat. They were there every day in two separate teams to try to minimize the possibility of infection. They really did a phenomenal job. Our leadership really took that to heart, and the aquarists and keepers have been just the backbone of that place. They really have done a phenomenal job in keeping everything going.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're fun people to be around too. So.
Yeah, they've been doing a really good job. They informed my daughter that their sharks Long Island Sound, so not so sure when I take her to Campo Beach, they'll likely put her going back in the water. But it's okay.
We'll be tagging them next year, so you'll know exactly where they are.
Perfect. I'll just text you before we go to the Campo Beach, and I'll be like, "Can you just let me know if they're in this general vicinity?"
These are the sharks that eat fish. They're not gonna take. You'd have to like stick your hand in their mouth to get bitten by one of these.
Shannon, can I just ask?
Yeah.
Did our daughter just discover Rodney Dangerfield or something for the first time?
No, she's watching Despicable Me. I don't know what's happening.
It sounds like a really good scene is going on.
Okay, yeah,
it has been for the last 20 minutes.
Sorry.
It's like she knows. It's like she subconsciously knows that we're live. We're attempting something live here that really is seldom done. Two parents of young kids on a podcast. You call it negligence. I call it an interesting social science experiment. But we're going to see if we can make it through this without, all hell breaking loose.
Good luck, guys.
I just had to do that because if I'm listening to this podcast, I'm like, why isn't there someone there to watch the kids? Well, because there's a pandemic and we don't let people in our house. That's why. That's why. Yeah. And if you are the type of person who likes to have people over during a pandemic, no worries. This is just the way that we choose to do it. No problem. Not passing any judgment.
They're in your pod.
That's right. We are here in our little pod. Exactly. Sorry to go off the rails a little bit there, but I felt like I had to say something and make fun of you. Your mute button does work if you need to. I know you're in the middle of talking right there when she hit you with that. Me? Was that rude? Yeah. I was joking, but seriously.
I don't know what's mute and what's not mute. I was in the chat for a couple minutes. I didn't know how to get out of it, so I'm just not going to touch anything.
Oh yeah, don't go to the chat. It's very tough to get out of the chat once you go in. It's like It's like what TV shows and movies taught us that quicksand would be like.
Right. I'm glad you guys get to just host this, so I'm not gonna have to look at it at all.
Yeah, right. You don't have to mess with that.
Yeah,
no worries. No pressure.
Tell me what to
do. So can I just go back? Can we go back to college for a minute? Because
Sure.
Shannon asked a follow-up question, and I had so many things.
Oh God.
So no, nothing bad yet.
Okay.
I'm sure there'll be follow-ups that are inappropriate because it's me. But just for now, like, this guy is measuring crabs so he can get to the party, and like, you knew him. Did you have any idea that this was happening?
No.
See, this is what I would write my thesis on.
You know, the things you do to try to just remember to have fun. It's work hard, play hard. It's
which is
that biologists certainly do.
Totally. I love that though. Yeah. Oh gosh, did I just get dropped off? Oop. Okay, I'm still there. Everyone's still there? I thought I got dropped off of this.
No, you're here.
Okay, good. For some reason, everything just disappeared. Anyway, I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, I don't think I even knew that you were a marine biology major. I don't remember that at all.
No.
And not that you probably remember I was a fashion merchandising major, but I'm just saying I don't remember that. But I probably assumed you were smart if you were hanging out with Eric. So
Eric is so that guy is one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life. So.
He keeps turtles, by the way.
I know.
Did you know that?
I know. I remember the same turtles that he had in undergrad. He still has.
Yeah, and he has map turtles, by the way. Steve is in the background listening. Just so you guys know, I didn't give you this bit of information before we started, but the people viewing this and listening to this can't hear Steve, but only we can. That's the big one that I didn't drop on you. So yeah, Steve is a map turtle lover, and Dave and Shannon, your mutual friend Eric, has map turtles, which is just the coolest thing.
So Dave, when he was a sophomore in college and I was a freshman, I don't know if you remember his dorm room, but he created a pulley system. He had like a baseball bat attached to like wires to get to so that he didn't have to get out of his bunk bed to open the door. So he'd pull on this metal baseball bat and it would open the door from his bunk.
It's like our whole fraternity.
Yeah. So I was watching a movie on the floor one night, and he went to go open the door, and the metal baseball bat came down and just bashed me on the head. I'll never.
You.
That was you. Of course it did. Of course it did.
Yeah.
Because your head is a magnet for objects.
Well, yeah, I mean that group. I mean, if you look like Nick Sharika, like he's working for Boom now. They just like supersonic jet that he's helping build. Like he was working like fixing nuclear submarines. This is another one of our fraternity brothers. I don't know how I got surrounded by a bunch of people like that, but there's phenomenal people that were incredible influences. It was great. You know,
I was saying that to Anthony because, you know, like John Sugarman is an engineer, John Bedard is an engineer, Nick Sharika, they all lived on my floor my freshman year of college. And so I was a year behind them, but it just so happened that like I buddied up with them, and then that was how I kind of started to hang out with them. Did
you know Greg Hughes? He ended up getting like a Gates scholarship to Cambridge to like go and develop interfaces for the blind. He's like,
I don't think I remember him.
He's like it was another group of that was
that's so wild.
It's like I don't know. Like my college roommate was trading Facebook stock before I went public, and started a microbrewery distributor with another one of our brothers. It's like it's just a phenomenal group of people to be around, and to look back, I feel really fortunate to have been around that group of guys in college.
So this is why I wanted to touch on this too. So Shannon, question for you. So this is who you're hanging out with in college, this fraternity full of successful people, and you marry an art major from Rhode Island College.
Yeah. I mean, I think we talked about it a couple nights ago in bed. I definitely dropped the ball somewhere in college.
You did. You definitely did.
I'm going to tell you, Dave, there were a lot of very intelligent people in your fraternity. And every single one that I had relations with.
You don't have to say have relations.
Was not in that group of people. So I really went like the opposite way. And I just sat in bed and I said to Anthony a couple nights ago, I'm like, I just want our daughters to know like how important it is to like date date the nerdy guy. Like it's gonna be worth it one day.
Honestly, though, like, how can you go wrong with doing something you love to do? And like, there's so many other things. There's so many ways to make money in this country, and if you can't make it in this country doing something you love, it's it's really hard to do it outside the country. My wife's originally from Colombia, and we lived there for a year. And it's a place that is really like growing tremendously. But like there, when you've traveled to other places, you see the types of struggles people are under, and the kind of things that we get to do here. You don't have to do stuff. There are certain things you have to do, like just to like, all right, I'm gonna have to sell fish or something, and that's like how I'm gonna feed it's feeding your kids, and like being able to have bandwidth beyond just like the basic necessities allows people to just get into their hobbies and be able to produce culture, and that's how culture is able to grow. And it's I think it's phenomenal that you guys get to we all got to do this, like go into something we like to do and study that for college, and it's partly our privilege too, but in a big way. And there's a big work, a lot of work to be done in that area. So I'm and I've done my bit, and I'm going to continue doing my bit for that. But it's I truly think that we were very fortunate in this country to be able to do something we love to do. Don't sell yourself short. Come on.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
She's taking the pandemic tougher than others,
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. All right, I have a question that's kind of like gonna go off, but it's something that I really I want to know. Do you have any more of my college questions, Anthony? Anything else you want to?
No, not. I'll let you know if any pop up though.
Okay, all right. Okay. One question that Anthony and I always talk about that I'm interested to see what you think is, there's always so much thought about taking care of sea turtles, and you tend to see everything more about sea turtles and not so much about, like at the aquarium, how you guys have spotteds and trying to think of other, like the box turtle and stuff like that. Turtles, what do you think the reason is there's more done about sea turtles and there is talk about other stuff? Species.
I weirdly have been thinking about this over the past few days too, because I knew it was going to come up. And like, okay, so I think part of it is it's been ingrained into our culture to some extent, right? So even if you go back to like the Greeks and the Romans, and there's this like it's in like frescoes, and it's ingrained to have this this look to the horizon mentality, and this exploration mentality that humans have. And I think that you associate this exploring animal that kind of circumnavigates the globe with that to some extent. But I think as somebody who grew up on freshwater systems, and as somebody who like grew up like catching soft-shell turtles in little lakes in Michigan, and I think that everybody can point to use another researcher's term, their water. Like you talked earlier as we were getting ready for this, like some pond like in Connecticut that you grew up, and I can point to this beach on Lake Michigan as like that was what like connected me to water and that broader world. And I think that when we think about people that live inland and like that connection to turtles in general, I think it's something. It's you still get that connection, and I think sea turtles are just they're this foreign alien animal that comes out of the water like once a year and digs this hole, and it's kind of fascinating. And it's in some cases it's kind of a bounty too. So when people are subsistence cultures, they go and this is like a time of year when they can go and collect eggs and eat those eggs. And in previous times when sea turtles weren't endangered, and all 7 species are. It wasn't it was something that it's a very cultural thing to eat. And you think of the way Galapagos tortoises were used as food for mariners. When they would stop over, they'd stock their sailing ship full of Galapagos tortoises, and they stay alive forever. They're great, so you have fresh meat while you're sailing around. So um, one of the courses that I would have hoped you had a chance to take was Rod Mather's History in the Sea course at URI. It was phenomenal. But we got into some of those, like the cultural obsession with sea monsters, and I think it comes to that. There are some origin stories where the world is on the back of a sea turtle. So we think to that as kind of our obsession with the great beyond in a way, I think. And I certainly think that land turtles and tortoises and freshwater turtles connect us in that way too.
Yeah.
Pestodines are cool.
It's funny because, again, like to go back to the aquarium, the class, they showed all the different turtles and tortoises you guys have at the aquarium. And my daughter has 100+ turtles that live in her basement. And all she kept talking about were the sea turtles. And like Anthony got home that night and she was like, oh my gosh, did you know this about sea turtles? And like she just went on and on and on. And it's just like, it's so funny to me because it's like, oh my gosh, you have an entire basement full, but there's just something about the sea turtles that just, I don't know. It just seems they're just much more popular.
However we can connect, right? So in a lot of ways, we were talking a little bit about this earlier. Like I got connected to marine biology with sharks. I read Shark Lady about Dr. Eugenie Clark, who I had hoped to meet before she passed away. She passed away in her 90s. Got to meet her office neighbor, who said she was just a thrill to keep up with. In her 90s, like still publishing like a madwoman. And you read about some of these people that are just like inspiring and incredible human beings that go out and just delve into it. And it's the gateway drug to all the small stuff. I can sit next to a rock on a dive and just like geek out on the little shrimp and stuff that are just hanging out there. So
I know like you had talked about you kind of steered away from sharks and went towards lobsters, but like at any point did you do a lot of do you ever do research with sharks like outside of the US or like bigger sharks?
So actually the first project I've gotten to do with sharks is the one we currently have.
Wow.
So all of this time, and it took coming to the Maritime Aquarium to start to work with sharks. And it's being able to be reductionist and being able to go down into like the gill of like an individual crab and like what that gill does, and then being able to kind of bring it back to being a generalist. And I think that it's important to be a general naturalist and generally interested in the natural world to be able to then look at how your program can impact the instance in that species. So shortly, like the Connecticut Deep, when I called them up and asked kind of we're looking at trying to do more. It seems like there's this data gap that exists for Western Long Island Sound. People aren't really working on this. What should we be doing to kind of help with this? The New York Aquarium and WCS does a lot of tagging. They have an acoustic network out on Long Island in Great South Bay, and they've done a lot of really incredible work there. New England Aquarium and the folks in Massachusetts and Rhode Island have done quite a bit on sand tigers and kind of what they're doing. Sand tigers are the species you see at the aquarium, by the way, except for our one lemon shark. But that's a species that's a local species. It's doing okay here, but we have no idea how large sharks are using Long Island Sound. We know they're there. We know we get fishing. They pull them up on Prenfield Reef in Fairfield from time to time. So we know that we have records for them, but we don't know how they're passing, how they're traversing the sound, how they use this as a highway. And as the sound improves, what else is coming through? So we had humpback whale come through on Friday, which was seen in Old Lyme, and we haven't seen a humpback whale since like 2017. So feeding on the massive schools of bunker that are coming through. So the whole ecosystem is connected, and if the food's there, the rest of it will be there. So I've gotten this chance to kind of hopefully connect our program in Long Island Sound to the regional questions that are going on. How are they moving from Massachusetts down to North Carolina? And how can we start to connect the researchers together? And we're participating. We're helping to lead this local effort, and just trying to do our part for it. So long-winded answer.
That's so cool.
But it's been really cool to be able to come back to that and look at it from the data gap. Like, what is the data gap, and is it a data gap that we can get after, or that we can connect two different groups together, or be the facilitator to that? So, like an aquarium is pretty non-threatening, so we could be really empowering of other groups and bring skeptical groups together. And it's been a really incredible way to do conservation and to bring research teams together.
I love that. Collaboration is so important, and it's really just imperative that you could figure out a way to get different sides together to work together. I see so many times, like, animal people get really fiery and rabid, pun intended, about whatever animal group it is that they stand for or care about or whatever.
Rabid, yeah.
Right, not actually rabid. Yeah. Pun intended, figuratively. Yeah. And you'll have all these groups, and they'll disagree on certain points that are really important to them, but that the overarching or larger population has no idea that that's even a thing, and they're disagreeing about it. And now you have all these separate groups that, instead of being unified and working to actually make larger change, they're kind of stuck with a smaller capacity to actually, actually make something happen.
Rhinos in Africa.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more. I'm a turtle guy.
Rhinos. Well, I'm a marine scientist too. But with rhinos in Africa, you have a lot of small organizations that kind of this is our project, and they're like, these are our dollars, these are our donors, and rather than working together to get something done,
sure,
in a place that could be very difficult to get things done, and having some distributed network, that we've kind of been at loggerheads instead. And I think that the conservation community has started to learn from this, and started to work together far more. I've going from like academic science to this area over the last 4 years, I've seen a lot of collaboration, and not a whole lot of like the kind of nitpicky argument stuff. And it's been really heartening to see that people work together quite a bit.
Is this the first institution that you've worked for?
No, I worked as a assistant professor down in Atlanta, building a small program. So we were essentially a school that was mostly focused on 2-year programs, and then I was brought in to help with getting the 4-year programs off the ground. So I was bringing kids that had never been out of Atlanta to like Bogota, Colombia, to do freshwater crab stuff in their summers. It was absolutely incredible, and we were stomping around in Atlanta streams doing crayfish work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And I look at where those students are now. They're with West Atlanta Water Alliance, and one went to grad school at Northwestern, and the group that just being able to provide those experiences and those connections and entrance to that network with passionate people, and first in their families to go to college. I mean, it makes a huge difference. Just like, here's how this nuts and bolts things works. Go to the conference, meet the people. It still ends up being about people. That's something that I didn't get until after I graduated URI, and I should have been going to like the benthic ecology meeting as an undergrad, and meeting researchers to get to that next step. And starting to connect into that community a little bit more. I would like to see more people without PhDs be empowered to collaborate with people with PhDs and with master's degrees to bring their knowledge to it. You know, the husbandry community in the Zoo and Aquarium community is incredible. They have a ton of knowledge, and it doesn't often get into the published literature. I know the Aquarius have what was it, this reviewed journal. It's Drum and Croker. It's available once a year, but they write up something about how they bred some particular animal, and it gets edited and put into this journal that goes out. And that, even though it's gray literature, should be encouraged, because it's really important for folks to share their knowledge and for there to be less of a guild. And I hope I don't, I'm not, I'm part of the guild in the PhD, but I think it's really important for people to know that there's value, and that you should be encouraged to publish. And peer review is scary, but it should be something that people should be encouraged to do.
It's interesting that you talk about that kind of like the bureaucratic, like the guild that but I think like self-awareness, right? And acknowledging that is the first step, right? But that's why you're so cool. And that's why you're having this conversation with us, right? You could be doing anything, you work hard, you're spending your night off with us, and you've made arrangements to be here with us on our podcast, which is so cool. I think, as people who have roots in the private sector, I mean, now we have a conservation organization of our own. Our roots are in the private sector, and that's something that means a lot to us, because in our experiences, not everyone is willing to step across that line and work with someone else. And I get it. Like, it's not always an easy job, and you get burned by somebody once or twice, and it kind of changes your perception and everything. But it's difficult to collaborate with more people. It's difficult to trust people until they give you a reason not to. All of that is difficult, and it takes a lot of work and time and energy and that sort of thing. But I think it's the right. Yeah, right.
It's hard.
Right. Patience. Yeah, absolutely. And there's been areas where we would have had to earn that trust, and it's been very rewarding for us. But there's nothing better than being able to collaborate with people who have a different skill set, a different knowledge base, and a different way of doing things. I think that's awesome. So hearing you say that is something that's just absolutely encouraging. And it was kind of the reason why I was asking you if you had worked at an institution before. What I meant by that question, and I didn't say it right, was if you had worked at like a zoological institution before, like an AZA institution, that sort of thing.
No, volunteered at the Georgia Aquarium, but I didn't get beyond enough bandwidth to be a greeter. But I think, if I can't be a greeter and make people excited about being there, then I shouldn't just be at a lab bench necessarily. I think that's an important piece to be able to bring that expertise even to something like that. But that's how that was the first place I volunteered, and then this position opened, and it's been an absolute blast.
That's awesome. And it's, to me, so it's cool because we love the Maritime Aquarium, and we love the people who we bump into there who are volunteers, the people who we met who work there, the way that it's set up, the collection, all of that sort of stuff. We just really enjoy it. And it's kind of like there are 2 aquariums in Connecticut. Shannon and I, our family, we far prefer the Maritime over the other Connecticut Aquarium, and that's nothing against them.
Different markets. We're in different markets.
Right, totally. I mean, we could kind of take the trip to either, which I don't know how much farther Mystic is. It's a little bit further, but we just enjoy the Maritime, and that's nothing against Mystic. We just enjoy it. But to hear your experience and to hear you talk about collaboration and your excitement when you talk about citizen science, like, that's awesome. And I don't know that all AZA institutions are like that. And it's just something that from an outsider's perspective seems really cool and refreshing. Again, I'm not trying to say anything negative about anyone, but I wonder if our love for the maritime has to do with the way it's run, or people like you who are there, who are excited about things like citizen science and connecting with people and all the rest of it.
Well, thank you, and thank you for. Oh, Shannon's muted again.
You're muted again. Yes, go on.
God, I'm the worst.
It's only been twice. It's okay. You get 3 strikes.
I was going to ask about, I don't know anything about this, and I did try to Google it, but can you tell us about your recent induction to the Explorers Club? Because I'm totally intrigued by this.
So, I had a couple of really great experiences. We have the son of Jim Fowler, who you may know from the first nature shows, Mark Fowler, who's actually on our research and conservation committee for the aquarium, and he's a nature director for Grace Farms Foundation up in New Canaan. He's a local guy between here and Georgia, so we both kind of weirdly have Connecticut and Georgia connections, and we've worked together a lot over the last couple of years. He's a nature photographer and videographer, and kind of cajoled me to apply. Met Galen Rosenwax, who's another nature photographer, marine scientist. She's out on Long Island in Montauk, and two really passionate people who sponsored me in. And the Explorers Club goes back over 100 years, and it's a really interesting group of people because it's people who want to advance science and that passion for exploration. And so you have everything from astronauts to historians to people who are just generally really interested in that stuff, who are members, friends, and fellows. So I was inducted as a national fellow this year. It's it's an amazing honor to be a part of that, just an amazing group of people. And I'm really excited to be involved with more of their events once things calm down again and we get to actually go to the physical location in New York. And they sponsor Oceans Week every year, and have events with all the folks who are visiting the UN. They pop over to the Explorers Club and give talks and other just really amazing. It's a group of my heroes, honestly. And it's just an incredible group of people to be surrounded by.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
How does your wife? She must be some sort of saint. So, like, how?
She's like beatified already. So.
Like, how does she deal with all the different things that you're involved in? Like, how does she tie into it? So tell me, I mean, I guess you guys are tied together with the Upwell Coffee, but like, how else does it kind of tie in that she's involved? Does she enjoy it? Does she not?
So I kind of have to give the full story, I guess. So we're gonna just follow along with me here. So we met at a department Halloween party in grad school, and we're in the physiology department at UConn together. And she was originally looking at going into medicine, which I was like, yes, sweet. But I knew that we would have, a very difficult life, me being an academic and her being a medical doctor, if that was the way we decided to go. But we've both been always very flexible with kind of the route we wanted to do, and just wanted to, always been very focused on each other first. And honestly, like, people talk about love at first sight, and this is totally cheesy, but it was love at first sight. We have a ton in common. I threw down every card I had to get a first date with her. Danced salsa, spoke to her in Spanish, the like, and she agreed to go on a first date with me. Yeah. Ordered crab cakes, and it was all over. So she kind of like had it like half eaten and was like, "Wait, you work on crabs?" It's like, keep eating them. They're delicious. blue crabs, if there's a crab that deserves to be eaten, they're super mean and they're delicious. So if there's not joy in eating blue crabs, I don't know what there is.
I'm just picturing like a first date. So you want to tell her all about the crab, right? Like interesting
We went, like,
facts.
4 hours of like just everything under the sun, and it was like we'd known each other for 20 years. So
That's really cool. That's really cool.
She and I I ended up getting a Fulbright to Colombia to work on like there are freshwater crabs at 10,000 feet above sea level, which is they kind of fulfill the like crayfish niche that we have here. So you don't find crayfish except invasive ones in South America. And so I was like, well, honey, like she's originally from there. I was like, well, what do you think about what do you think about going back for a year and we'll just like figure this out and have I'll get to know your country. And I've been collaborating with people there for like ever since, so over almost 10 years. And she ended up getting hooked into doing marketing and digital marketing when we were down there working for a Colombian flower exporter. Most of our flowers actually come from Colombia in the United States. So it's she ended up working for this like drop ship wedding flowers thing where like they'd show up on a Thursday and you'd open them and they'd be perfect for Sunday. It's just kind of this wacky thing. But absolutely loved it and never looked back. So she has her own like social media agency, and that allows her to work from anywhere in the world. So when I go and do field work, she and the kids come down and like go and visit family. And everybody I work with down there, at least in Colombia, like brings their kids to the lab and stuff. So it's like you've got like 6 or 8 year olds like running around like feeding sharks and stuff, or like selling tickets. And it's like it's kind of a wild place to grow up. And it's surreal because we were supposed to do some coral work in Oceanario in the national park this year, and my 6-year-old was supposed to come out there and just like crash and do coral work with me for like 2 weeks. So, but he's good. He's in the lab. He helps when he can, and he doesn't deal with any chemical stuff. But he's probably going to be an engineer.
I was going to say, do they like stuff?
They do. I think my middle one's the most animal centric. I kind of think the eldest is going to be like an engineer, or he's going to be a finance bro. It's going to go right to the dark side. But the 19, 20-month-old, almost 20-month-old is the jury's out. So
yeah, understandable. So tell me more about Upwell Coffee, because that's something that you and your wife have collaborated on.
We have this we have our like mugs and everything. So we when we were back in Atlanta, one of the things that I was teaching 5 classes a semester, which is a lot. It's like normal professors at like a teaching institution. So you went to Rick. Your professors probably had a 3-3 load. We had a 5-5 load. So you just don't end up having a lot of time to do anything but teach and like try to be like a good guide for your students and like your 300 advisees and the rest. So the time to write grants, and I struggle with this even now, like just the amount of time to delve deeply into the literature and like find all the things that you need to do to make something that's really compelling is difficult to carve out of a day. So we started to move the ball along on this coffee company idea that would kind of the concept of like $1 at a time. You build this sustainable funding model for doing field research, doing lab research, being able to fund students to go to like meetings, and it kind of reached a pinnacle when I reconnected with a buddy of mine from elementary school, Sal Sanchez from Michigan, and he'd been in the coffee business for 15 years. We went back and forth and got this thing off the ground. So the Upwell basically gives $1 per bag of coffee to one of 5 organizations. So the Maritime Aquarium, we actually match it an extra $1. I work there, right? So they gotta get that. The Oceanic Society gets $1 for their SWAT grants that go directly to sea turtles and sea turtle conservation on the ground. So they give small grants of like $500 to $1,000, and that we know, like as a field biologist, like $1,000, like that gets my team on the ground and like all the stuff, all the whirly gigs we need to do the work, right? So you don't need a ton of money to make a huge difference. We're locally, we also give, if you guys know of Earth Place, they house Harbor Watch, which basically allows us to know that we are kicking along on safe places to swim. So they're the ones that are out there sampling water and making sure that it's safe. They do an incredible job. We also work with the Amphibian Foundation, which also has a Yukon connection. I went to grad school with their research director. He put a critter cam on one of like the largest alligator snapping turtles in the state. And so there's some critter cam footage of him going out with kids from Hartford and swimming around. And so Tobias Landberg was a good friend, and he was we reconnected, and I thought that it was a really amazing bit that we could help support them and their bridge program. And beyond that, we've also, let's say, Maritime Aquarium, Harbor Watch, the Oceanic Society, the Amphibian Foundation, and what's our 5th one? So sea turtles. I'm drawing a blank here. Hold on.
I think it was the turtle room.
Oh, the turtle room needs to come on board.
Just saying. It's all about people connections.
I know.
Anthony, you did the critter cam too, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I was gonna say, actually, it's funny. Every time I go, so I got to go and volunteer with that same group that Tobias worked with, and every time I could just hear in the back of, if I close my eyes, I could hear Chris Lugenbuehl telling me, "You got to hook up with my friend Tobias. You got to hook up with Tobias. He's amazing. He's amazing." And I've heard it from several different people, but I get to go and be the snapping turtle handler, which is the coolest thing. I remind all my vet techs at work about that, because I'm like scared of the dogs that they just hold and restrain with no problem. But I'm like kind of hesitant. Like, if this was a snapping turtle, you guys would be.
So when he had a trimmer beard, did he ever remind you of Brett Favre?
Tobias?
Yeah.
No, I don't know Tobias.
Oh, you don't know him?
No.
Oh my gosh.
No. But if he's Brett Favre, like, I got to make sure I keep my wife away from him. Tell you what.
He's a wonderful man. Oh, so I was
Brett
talking about
Favre
corals. Talking about corals before. Our 5th one is Project Seacor. They do sexual propagation of corals. They actually breed corals. So normally you'd fragment corals and like grow them apart. Those are technically the same individuals. So what Seacor did was they took the coral spawn and found a way to breed them. We used their technique last year to make 120,000 larvae. And we were hoping to get to 1 million this year. So they are an absolutely incredible organization that's been driving that technology forward quite a bit too. So Seacor.
That is so cool.
I'm just like so jealous of your life. I feel so depressed right now. I'm just like, what?
Hey,
That's why we wanted to do this.
Opportunities. We run on volunteers. We are so thankful for our volunteers. And if any of your listeners are divers, we're always looking for volunteer divers for our dive team too.
Anthony, do not get any ideas. You're not adding anything else to your plate.
I'm talking about you. You can go and help coral have sex and do your thing. And
you did.
Okay, I'm so afraid to ask this question, Dave. I don't even know why I'm asking. I'm going to ask it anyway, though. There was a volunteer at the aquarium I don't know if they like moved them around, but he one day was by the seals. Do you know what I'm saying, Anthony? Do you remember he was?
They
I
do
don't know
move.
why you're
Everybody's trained. Everybody's cross-trained, and we have some long.
He was like a volunteer for like a really long time. The guy had to have been like in his 80s, but he was Anthony. You had like such a long conversation with him. Do you know who I'm talking about, Anthony? He was like
Don't
this
ask
sweet old
don't ask
man.
questions you don't want the answer to. We're very fond of him, and I just want to. I'm
You
just
don't want the
nervous.
answer. I just
I'm
We've
just
had some
nervous.
people with us for like 30 years. It's a really dedicated volunteer base.
Oh, the guy was so nice. He was so helpful and like knowledgeable, and I always think of him every time we go there. Hopefully, he's still there.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
We like a lot of our older volunteers have decided to stay away for obvious reasons right now. So we are looking for more volunteers. We're doing virtual trainings, and it's a really amazing way to give back and give that passion back. Everybody's really, really passionate about animals. And honestly, without our volunteers, we can't open our touch tanks. And as parents of small children, we know that's a really important part of visiting the aquarium. So,
Except for our
Please feel
daughters who don't like yucky stuff, so you don't have to worry about.
my kids are all elbows deep in the jellies tank, and like it's incredible.
That's cool. Now, do we figure out, okay, Upwell Coffee, do we say where people can go to check it out or where to go to buy it?
Upwellcoffee.com. You can do a couple of things. So one, you can either choose we are looking to do subscriptions. We have a subscription base. You get $1 off per bag. And we still give the $1, or in the case of the aquarium, $2 per month per bag to that your choice of organization. If you choose for me, it kind of gets divvied up amongst those 5 organizations. So upwellcoffee.com, and please help support all these really amazing organizations that are struggling during the pandemic. So we're hoping to provide long term. We really want to provide like a monthly dividend to them that they know is coming every month. So we're really hoping that people sign up for that subscription. We certainly do the one-time onlys as well, but that's a big deal for all those folks that are working with us as organizations. And check them out. They're amazing organizations.
That's awesome.
It's really cool. And there's obviously links to all of them on the Upwell Coffee.
Yes.
Site as well.
So check our partners section.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. So, talk to us a little bit about the work with Diamondback terrapins and what you're trying to get off the ground.
Right.
Just, since it's a turtle podcast and we have a lot of Diamondback terrapins, we talk about sea turtles are a lot more interesting and people seem to be interested in them. Diamondbacks are like they're like I don't know. They're very popular gateway drug for turtle nerds too. Because when you first see that those exist, you're like, well, what is this Dalmatian turtle and what's that story? They're very beautiful, obviously very striking.
They're one of the most beautiful turtles. And the variation designs you see on their shells is just incredible. And we have those all those subspecies down into the Gulf, and it's just it's incredible. So one, they can deal with salt water, which to me as a physiologist who deals with like salt stress, I immediately nerded out on just their ability to tolerate salt. And one of the things that was prevalent, like when I first came to the aquarium, was I would get calls that I saw a sea turtle, and I'd get a picture, and it's like, that's a Diamondback terrapin. So right away, I'm like, okay, we probably are mixing some things up here. And we do, as an aside, we have sea turtles in the Sound. We had 4 that were struck and killed by boats this year. So we do absolutely have sea turtles, especially in the summertime. New England Aquarium does, all the cold stunning stuff. We do absolutely have sea turtles, but we don't know. The state is really interested in knowing more about how they're doing in Long Island Sound. So it is a species of special concern for Connecticut. The different states kind of manage them differently, but they're not technically listed species at the federal level or at the IUCN level at this point. So, and because of the subspecies, they're kind of managed all differently. So it's the same problem you kind of have with, distinct populations of turtles and sea turtles in general. We've got these like regional management units that they're trying to do, and the Oceanic Society has been really involved with that. But for the locals, it became prevalent. Like I got a call from some folks in Greenwich that were like up in arms about some development that was happening, and they're like, "But terrapins nest there." Like they don't have the data. So if there are not data, we can't do anything about it. So it became apparent that we needed to do something. So we contacted DEEP, and they knew that Connecticut DOT was really interested in this. Speaking of gateway projects, starting to work with roadkill and thinking about like, okay, let's start with terrapin crossings, because that's a problem, and we don't really have a firm grasp on exactly where that's happening. We have a good idea, adjacent to certain marshes in the state. We've got a pretty, we know that they're there, but we also don't want to draw attention to where they're nesting for obvious reasons. And we want to get a feel for kind of where there are some areas we would need to have some engineering constraints and some engineering changes to how we're managing roads and getting terrapins across that road, right? So that became a project that we kind of pushed through. We had a pilot in 2019 for this terrapin trackers project with Connecticut DEEP. Western Connecticut State University got involved for some of their master's students to help with some of the mapping, and we were hoping to kind of go full bore this year with being able to have you as an individual adopt like a 1/4 mile stretch, and we're hoping to get so we had 16 grad students this year from WestCon be able to do some of that, but we're hoping to have that get up and running on full steam this next year, to have throughout nesting season and throughout the season when terrapins would be crossing roads, to have some monitoring. And so please stay tuned for that. We're really hopeful that can be something that we can do to get the impetus started, get a little bit of steam, so we can start to get after some larger data sets like nesting. Start to think about what the impact is of dead terrapins on the side of the road on the population. So obviously if you have a gravid female, that's not good. So we're thinking about how we can manage this population. We start to have more information that allows the managers to then do what they do best.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So just so everyone knows too, when Dr. Hudson is talking, Dave is talking about DEEP, Connecticut DEEP. That's the Department of
and Energy and Environmental Protection.
Right. Used to be just Department of Environmental Protection, just DEP, now DEEP. So that's like in New Jersey, Fish and Wildlife. It's the state. Also, that's what it's called in Florida as well. In Pennsylvania, it's Fish and Boat. So every state has a different governing body that oversees wildlife and animal-related things. So,
Rhode Island was DEM. We have the Rhode Island connection here, so we got to talk about Department of Environmental Management for Rhode Island.
Is that what Rhode Island is? I didn't even realize that.
DEM. Yeah. DEM.
Oh, that's a hot button subject with election day tomorrow. Those Dems in Rhode Island won't let me keep any animals. Anyway, sorry, off the rails there. Just a little bit. It was a joke. Give me a break.
We're all
Dave, what are you hopeful for, like in the next couple of years in regards to? I mean, I know you just talked about that, but like, what else are you hopeful for wildlife protection?
Right. Well, a lot of it's, I think a big piece of it is getting people engaged. I think, we talked a lot about citizen science here. We've been tagging horseshoe crabs for like 16 years or something. with Sacred Heart and with Project Limulus. That's an effort that you generally has like 300 volunteers come out and tag horseshoe crabs with like 4-year-olds to 85-year-olds at like 11 o'clock at night. And
I don't think I've ever seen a live horseshoe crab in the state of Connecticut. I think I've only seen dead ones.
You need to come and do that next year. So we have generally 3, like it fills up very fast. So the training is in usually March, and COVID willing, we'll be able to get out there and do some tagging May and June when they're coming up on the shoreline. But that project, like thinking of like more projects like this, that tagging project has allowed us to start to make the impetus for, get the impetus to change how we're managing horseshoe crabs in the state of Connecticut. So we know, okay, they're very much resident to specific areas, so we need to protect certain beaches. Okay, maybe we shouldn't be collecting them for bait when they're coming up to nest. So like to try just basic things about trying to maintain the population here, because that's one that is starting to slide into the vulnerable territory and was just, listed as vulnerable. So I'm really like hopeful that that being an animal that we kind of you're like, oh, I already see these dead on the beach. Hopefully you're seeing molts on the beach, because the live animal has molted and grown and
maybe that's thriving.
Yeah. Out in as working with animals that shed things.
Right.
So it's you guys work with things that shed scutes, right? So these are hopefully growth things that are happening, and we want to make sure that we're getting people connected to nature. I want to see more people get connected to nature and see it start to move upstream. I got a call from somebody up the Housatonic about their 12-year-old came screaming out of the stream behind her house because she saw this like giant crab with hairy claws, which turned out to be a Chinese mitten crab, which we've identified as an invasive species in the state. So just getting people more engaged with reporting these types of things and being able to have an impact and know that they have these records have extreme value. Download iNaturalist, download Anecdata on your phone and contribute to it. We'll be doing the City Nature Challenge next year. So I don't know if you guys are in Fairfield County or Westchester County, but join our group and help us to beat other aquariums in the state when they do it. And it started as a competition, right? So I think it was California Academy of Sciences and like the LA Zoo or something. And it was out in California. So sorry for those who started this. I'm not exactly up to date on how it exactly started, but it started as a competition. And I think there's a certain we all kind of get fired up about something like that. We had 3,000 identifications in a pandemic this year for the City Nature Challenge, and people got out into nature. So I'm really like, if anything has given me pause and helped me to think about how people are reconnecting with the natural world, the last 9 months has done that. I think people are getting outside and they're connecting with it, and that's how people become informed about their surroundings. We've been so in front of screens that we just want to get out. But we've really the screen issue happened before that, so we were really in front of screens before that and not going into nature. I think there's a lot of hope because people have reconnected in a lot of ways, and that breeds interest. That breeds, okay, maybe this horseshoe crab thing is something really interesting. Let's go down that road. Oh, I saw a bog turtle. What's the deal with this bog turtle? Oh, it's highly endangered. We should be protecting this thing. So, getting people outside into their backyard even is just a really important piece, and it's happened. And that is something that really excites me, because people getting connected with this. It's something that I've been really highly connected to since I was 7 years old, and 30 years later, still in it. So
how scared and traumatized was that little girl about that crab? Because the name of it alone sounds really scary.
Yeah.
Like I'm just picturing my daughter going and seeing something like
It is
I want to Google
number
that.
34 on the worst invasives in the world. It's like up there with like mosquitoes and a couple of other really nasty things like diseases. Like, it's done $100 million worth of damage to the Danube River in 100 years.
Oh
It's
my
like,
gosh.
it's a really, really, really bad invasive. She was apparently quite scared and scared enough to call me. So,
Wow.
that said, if you do see one of those, please call Dave Molar with Connecticut DEP, or me, and I'll get the information to him and take a picture, put it up on iNaturalist so we can know where, because we have a chance to hopefully get them out before as we're trying to like help rivers recover and all these freshwater systems recover, by bringing dams down. We've got to keep the invasives out too. So
That's wild. That's
Yeah.
really
I know.
cool. I'm looking at pictures of them. They are pretty scary.
they are.
I mean, it's a crab, but it's
Well, like if somebody sees a red-eared slider, they should call someone, right? So,
Oh, please.
Yeah.
We get all the calls for the red ear sliders.
Jeez,
sliders.
like, what is that reaction? My goodness.
Anthony-
Excuse me.
Anthony's like the red ear slider pickup guy. He just goes all around the state picking up red ear
That's
sliders.
what I am. I have a business card that says it. The red ear slider pickup guy.
Well, so our director of animal husbandry worked at a place that they collected all of them at the aquarium and just started like a feed station, and it was one of their major money makers, that helped them feed all the other animals at the aquarium. And it was this like there are certain things aquariums get called for. It's like red-eared sliders, pacu, because people are like, oh, cool, it's like a piranha, but then it gets to be like the size of your like Labrador, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
they get really large.
and
Yeah.
as an aside, they're delicious. It's one of the most delicious fish I have ever eaten in my life.
I can't believe you eat fish. I'm so surprised by this right now.
You should be. What was it? I have a colleague who opened up about 2 weeks ago about how he worked with somebody in Alaska who was a biologist and was very skeptical of him until he knew that he ate the animals he worked on. So he was like, okay, I don't trust a naturalist that doesn't eat their study organism. So I definitely eat crabs. Hopefully you guys don't eat turtles, but that's it.
I'm not eating turtles, that's for sure.
I will neither confirm nor deny that I have tried turtle. I felt like it was important, and I feel like maybe I'm going to lose a listener for this, but here's the reason why.
Oh God.
Because I'm not a hypocrite, and I'm not a vegan, I'm not a vegetarian, and I love cows and pigs and chickens. I do, but I eat them. I appreciate them. I love them. I love to see them. But where I draw the line is endangered animals.
So
That's what I'm passionate about,
Yeah.
personally.
I think there's a cultural understanding there when it comes to trying to get people to stop eating endangered animals in particular. There's a photo that one of the guys that that's involved in the Kemp's Ridley program always shows, and he shows that this is a picture of it's a picture of a guy on a horseback with a machete and a bandana prior to when we all had to be wearing these things. And he talks about how this was my first year on the beach 45 years ago in Tamaulipas State in Mexico. I shared the nest with him. I conserved half of the nest. He took half of the nest. And you have to start somewhere. I know it's something that is, it comes from from our privilege that, we can just kind of helicopter in and be like, you shouldn't do this. But there are
Right.
people who are, when they see their starving child, they're going to do what they need to do to feed that child. And we need to provide other ways for people to make money. We need to find other ways for people to feed their children and live dignified lives. And if you can do that, you're getting to the economic root of endangered species.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Oh my gosh. I just love listening to this.
Right? You
Yeah.
should tune
The
into
greater
podcasts
good.
more often.
Have you ever eaten at Turtle Soup in Narragansett? I don't even know if that's still a restaurant.
I think odd enough, I think I've only eaten there once.
I really love that restaurant.
They don't actually
And
serve turtle soup though. That's the
turtle
name of the
soup
restaurant.
was from terrapins, right? So I mean, it was Diamondback
Yeah.
terrapin. It was served the longest time. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, terrapins and snappers were the big ones. Steve just chimed in, which is true. And the soup that I tried was with a snapper,
Mm.
which hurts my heart a lot because I love snapping
Snapping
turtles.
turtles are so
They are the coolest. Yeah, so it hurts my heart, and it wasn't even good. But
The largest one that Tobias caught in Connecticut had no bottom jaw. Yeah, it
isn't that
was
amazing?
so it was the fattest snapping turtle he'd ever seen, and
Wow.
it was just this giant old monster, and it no bottom jaw. It's just still just cooking along.
Oh my
It's-
gosh, that's so
guys are-
crazy.
Snapping turtles are amazing.
They really are. They really are living dinosaurs. It's so cool. So I wanna rein this in and polish off this episode. We're pushing an hour and a half now. It's been amazing, Shannon. You said it best. Like I could just listen to you, Dave, for hours and hours. And if you ever need someone to do so, just let us know because we'd be happy to.
I'm happy you guys let me nerd out for an hour and a half.
Right? Isn't it the best?
I don't get to do this much, and so knowing that your audience is gonna go delve deep into this, it's freeing in a way.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best, and that's why we do it. And also just connecting too. We want to celebrate what you do at the Maritime, celebrate who you are, your knowledge, how cool you are, your willingness to work with people like us and talk to people like us is really, really cool and refreshing and inspiring. So we really appreciate it, everything you do and everyone, the person that you are.
I'm so mad we weren't best friends in college. I'm just so mad.
So am I.
And I mean, that was
now. Come on.
all due respect to Eric and John and Nick. Like they were lovely, and I loved hanging out with them. But wow,
right?
I was nose to the grind. I was just trying to keep my scholarship and stay out here. So,
you could have been helping him count crabs before the party.
Oh God! At that point in my life, I didn't have the proper shoes or attire to do something like that. But
you were already counting crabs. Okay.
Okay.
Here we go. So on that note,
never heard that joke.
I know, right? I'm so sorry. It's a turtle podcast, though, so we don't make crab jokes often. So Upwell Coffee, check out the website. Buy coffee and support conservation. How great does it get for you coffee drinkers out there? I'm not much of a coffee drinker, but we need to buy some Upwell coffee.
We're gonna be we are looking to have hot chocolate soon too. So
oh my gosh, I'm in.
Even the other hot drinks. So
I thought you were gonna say chocolate milk. I was getting real excited. Okay.
We don't have any coffee milk since again the Rhode Island connection. Coffee milk is, I feel like I have to eventually jump into.
If you make a coffee milk and hot wiener company, I'm gonna lose my mind. Okay.
All your Rhode Island.
That's a Rhode Island thing.
Sorry. There are 1 million people exactly that understand what we're talking about.
I know. That's what's fun about it sometimes because I think they get it. Like, oh, I don't get that, but I've been a part of an inside joke before. That's fun. So check out the Maritime Aquarium if you're in the Northeast. It's a really cool, like I would say it's like a hidden gem. I think even in our state here, I do think that Mystic Aquarium gets a little more pub. It's a little more well known. I think it's been a big player in that world for longer. At least that's my, being a Connecticut resident, that's my take on it anyway. So check out the Maritime. If you're in the area, visit. If not, as Dave mentioned, you can check out their free educational live streams that you can be a part of. Yeah, especially if you have young kids. Our kids have really, really appreciated those events. The Turtle Room has a calendar out. that will be coming out for 2021. If we make it there, make it out of 2020. We're really excited about this one. We've added extra photos. That was something that Steve was really excited about. So, you expect when you get your calendar to have 12 or maybe 13 nice, big, glossy photos. A lot of times people buy our calendars just for the photos, but we've added several more photos through there. So it's kind of like part calendar with a little extra picture book type. There's extra photos is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So you can order that through our website, theturtleroom.org, and check out Turtlely Devoted, our new podcast, Shannon and I, where we talk about things turtle and relationship related and get off topic all the time. It's a lot of fun, and we've really been enjoying it. How many episodes are we on now, Shan?
I don't know, 6 maybe?
I think we've done 6, and the next
Yeah.
one would be 7, right? Yeah, that's further than I thought. Like the podcast is going to go on forever. We've been doing the podcast for almost 8 years. This is episode 71. We do once a month usually. Really excited about that. But this has been our busiest year ever with the podcast. But I have to be honest, I didn't know we were going to make it 6 episodes deep and Turtlely Devoted. We're still doing it. We're still married. Still crazy after all these years.
Yeah.
And if you want to check out Dr. Hudson on Instagram, he's a really cool follow because he's got cool stuff going on that you can see. He gives you a glimpse into some of the awesome projects that they're doing there that he's involved in. That's DM Hudson PhD on Instagram. All right. So any closing words for us, Dr. Hudson?
So get involved, support your local zoo or aquarium, and stay interested in nature. And keep supporting each other, and we're gonna get through all this.
Absolutely.
Thanks for
How
having
could
me
you
on.
not feel like we're gonna get through it all and like there's hope after hearing Dr. Dave Hudson? How cool is that? Right?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time, and appreciate you.
Bye. Thank you.